Hey guys, what's up? It's the Elden Armor. Getting back to this another video, guys, and we want to have a little discussion today about, kind of the state that Elden Ring's in, and a lot of the things we're seeing, in the arena. Um, the community's, I guess you'd say, the population of the community's down big time right now. We don't have a lot of, I would say, as many good players as we did. We still have a lot of good players, but not as half as many as we did. And like the invasion stuff, guys are getting to the point they're just so slow. It's crazy. So the state of Elden Ring right now is just not, in the greatest state as far as population goes, and activity on the game. I've noticed over the last probably week since I've been back, there's been more of a, I guess you'd say, a decline in players since Night Rain came out. I can't remember a time, guys, that you couldn't, log in any level between 125 and max and go to combat ordeals and actually be able to get one, compared to where now they're just unheard of. Nobody's playing combat ordeals anymore, and I think that kind of has hurt the game a lot, just simply because, you know, if you wanted to test something, you don't get a lot of time in duels to really perfect your trade as far as, with a weapon or trying a new setup out as you do in duels. Um, so that's one thing I think it's kind of hurt the community as far as a learning curve, as far as, being able to perfect new weapons or work a new weapon into your arsenal and get used to it. Um, so it's one of those things, guys. Right now in the state that we're in, there's a lot of people that don't have good net, um, that are just really bad laggy, because a lot of the players are either Chinese or Japanese right now at the times that I've been playing. Um, Really about the only two people I've had, well, three people I've had a lot of trouble with lately is just Marco Veza, which Marco's really talented, guys. He's really skilled. Um, Definitely in one of the top five in the world, I'd say, or definitely top 10. Um, there's another guy's like, I think his PSN name's like ELMV or some shit like that, and he's just got a latency I just can't get used to, and like everything he throws, man, it's like even with shit it don't, it's like having hyper armor because of the connection. But other than that, guys, kind of trying to get back into doing what we normally do, which is just dueling and, trying to find new pseudo combos or the next big thing that's going to, help people in PvP, or the next glitch and things like that. So we're going to still be working on that, guys. But as far as build videos, man, I'm more of a dueling person than invasions. I've got a few invasions for you guys later. But, what do you guys want to see, man? The content's changed so much since, it started back with Dark Souls 1 and stuff. From what I've heard, it used to be all dueling content, and then after the Ring City DLC came out, it all went to invasions. So I'm trying to think now that, like, I know invasions are exciting, but everybody that does, say per se Elden Ring content right now, they're doing invasions. You don't see a lot of people that do duels and things like that, or anything besides invasions. So I'm hoping dueling makes a comeback, like it did in DS3 and, DS2 and all those. How, predominantly most of the content was dueling content. But I think, getting into the later stages of the game now, like it would have been in DS3, 3 or 4 years after it came about, I think we're going to start finding some new things to kind of occupy ourselves. I've been playing with a lot of weird setups like LGS in the main hand with the new spear. I can't think of what it's called. It's got a real like big combo even with the R1. I think it's called the Swift Spear maybe. Um, but even like right here, this is Jagger I'm fighting, and I like Jagger a lot. He's always, one thing I'll give Jagger, he's never been a big poison monster in the arena. Like a lot of people now are playing pretty much just max poise that way, no matter what they go through, which is kind of crazy. But I guess the meta's kind of went more to a 150 level since the DLC came out, and had all the stat requirements for some of the weapons. So I think the meta now is more activity at 150 than there is at 125. And I see people all the time ask, well, what's the big difference between being 125 and 150? Well, for you guys that don't know, man, I've been playing this game pretty hefty now for about 2, almost 3 years. And guys, there's a bigger damage jump pretty much from 125 to 150, like the difference in how the damage takes and acts and things like that, and the poison, what you can get out of a character from 125 to 150 than there is just about from 150 on up. And that's just simply because, you know, you can't have a big mad amount of armor and then have 3 tallies that you can use or 4 without having to use something to be able to hold all the shit that you're carrying. That's something I've noticed. You know, a lot of people just want to wear the most poise they can get and just pretty much just spam hyper armor is a lot of stuff I'm seeing. But guys, you know, everybody keeps saying this is not a skill-based game, and I really hate to differ with that because I've been playing long enough to know, just like Marco, I have a lot of trouble with him. And if it wasn't a skill-based game, Marco wouldn't, you know, there wouldn't be people that I have trouble with like I do Marco. You know, if it was just more or less a pushing buttons game, you could beat anybody. But that being said, I still haven't killed Luber or G. And that's just simply because their skill's a little bit better than my guys. I mean, you just got to face it sometimes. I'm just practice to try to get to that point. But, you know, with the state the game's in right now, I think everybody's looking for some new content per se, or the next Souls game that's going to have PvP to come out on all consoles instead of, you know, it being like Dust Bloods and being strictly for, you know, one console. But I don't know, guys. I don't know where the channel's going to go from here. You know, it's not like I'm a big channel or anything like that, and we kind of, you know, try to work around getting everybody the gear they need to be able to be competitive, you know, and play in this game. That was kind of the reason I started the YouTube. But with the population, you know, dwindling like it is and everything going like it is in game, I don't know how much longer we're going to do it, guys. I guess there just comes a time and a point that, you know, just like everybody's saying with, yeah, you know, Sergeant Jaeger, I think that one guy's name's Critical, and he came in, you know, even though he's making millions, but, you know, Sleepy left. Sleepy's been gone now for over a year almost. You know, we're getting ready to lose Jagger. And guys, I'll be honest with you, man, I love this game. And as much as I've always been into PvP in a multiplayer setting, you know, and really, in Elden Ring, man, it's probably got the best mechanic system to base skill off of fights than any games I've seen, like WoW or EverQuest or anything like that. You know, those games are more pushing buttons and know when to push them and stuff like that in your gear than it is skill. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's always going to be skill based in a game, but like, to me, Elden Ring has got so much more, I guess you would say, skill to be had than any game, just simply because there's so many weapons, there's so much you can do with them, so many Ashes of War, then, you know, being able to light roll on top of, you know, the spells and everything, there's just so much you have to know to be skilled in this game. And, you know, some of the clips you all see that sometimes, especially with Kivas or something, that I make it look easy, you know, some of the shit I do, and it's not, guys. It's just a lot of hours that I've spent, you know, and especially with the Kivas, man. When I first started playing with these things, guys, I was horrible with them, you know, and it took me months to be able to get the skill that I have with them. But, you know, I guess, guys, what I'm trying to say is, I don't know how much longer we're going to be, you know, doing the, like, per se, doing the drops and stuff for everybody. Just simply because I don't know how much longer I'm going to be on the game. You know, if something don't break soon, we either get a patch or, you know, get something that actually brings some excitement back to the game. Because, you know, used to, PvP got boring, I'd always go run, you know, a new playthrough through the game and learn how to use a different setup or a different weapon or something like that. But with, you know, Dust Bloods getting ready to come out, or not Dust Bloods, but the Tarnished Edition coming out, and having the new light, I think it's called the Light Knight class or Heavy Knight class or something, that really there's no use to building another build yet till that comes out, because it's just going to have to be redone. And the reason for that is the new classes are going to pretty much dwarf everything, you know. The way it was before this, a Vagabond starting class was the best starting class in the game for any build at 125 per se, besides like for a mage, you might be able to get a little bit better mage just because you'd have a little bit more mind with a prisoner. But that's kind of optional, you know what I'm saying? Because I've even done it both ways, and um, really a vagabond you can get better stats out of for a mage than you can a prisoner. The only class that I've seen that you can start with that is better than a vagabond for a build is if you're running a really high strength build at 125. A hero is probably the best class to use, especially with all the helms and stuff we got now, to give us decks and things like that. But people who play this game like me, and are real competitive at it, we all look for good matches. Um, and something I can kind of say, it might help you guys a little bit. I told my first apprentice when we started playing, is the name of the game's not getting hit, man. If you don't get hit, you ain't got shit to worry about. And, if you really take that into consideration, it's pretty much that's how the name of the game is. It's not getting hit, knowing your space and things like that, how, weapons will act and hyper armor. And then outside that, guys, it just pretty much relies on your skill of knowing how to play certain latencies, certain weapons, certain situations of what to do. And it's kind of like a chess match. And the more you get used and you play it like a chess match, the more success you'll have as far as, being victorious in your fights. Not only that, guys, when you're trying not to, I guess you say, get hit all the time, it'll actually, if you have a lot of habits, like say breaking, like swing out of hit, stun and stuff like that, it helps break some of the stuff, you know. And then one other thing I'll kind of suggest, if you guys want to try to, make your skill better, is to take, when you're playing, and try to challenge yourself, man. Learn a new weapon, figure out a new combo. There's a bunch of different things you can do, guys, up your skill. The main thing I would say is learning how to roll catch, learning how to use your actual wars properly, knowing your true combos, and then just mastering the weapon that you're probably going to be using most of the time. Like Kivas was never my first option when I first started playing. The long half axe is what I played with Bloodhound Step, and that's when Bloodhound Step was still completely broken. But, and I came in, I think, in patch 108, and I think that was the patch that they finally actually gave axes a little, or kind of a speed up to their R1s and things. But, when I first started playing, guys, I played at 175. I always kept at least 101 poise. Usually it was between 101 and 103 poise. And then once I really got to playing, guys, the only time poise really comes into effect is, when you're getting something like a poker or something like that, it breaks, your poise. And you got to have the poise to really be able to do anything with it, especially if some people are latent. But, I always try to tell people, man, it's a game. Try to enjoy it, to have fun. And I kind of guess now that, everything's changed so much in the game and everybody's left it, which there's a lot. Tac just came back. I've seen Marco a couple times. A lot of people that I know that are really good duelists and really good at the game are saying they're coming back. But I guess with that, guys, it's just, I don't know how to explain it, man. It's just like the game just don't have the lure to me that it did. When me and one of my good friends, which I call my apprentice, when I met him in the game playing that, that's what we used to do every day. We just sat and fight all day in the arena. And, trying to learn everything we could. And we came leaps and bounds, what I'm saying? We're new, both of us were new to Souls games. Elden Ring was, our first Souls game, both of us. And, to where now that, you see more bullshit in the game that people are just doing to grief people or to be annoying and shit like that. And, that's something when I first started playing that you didn't really see a lot of. When I first started playing, guys, when you came into the arena in a duel, and we'll just say, just for instance, say you had 100 duels that day. Out of 100 duels, you would probably have 92 of them that as soon as the match started, you would get a bow from your opponent, you would bow back, or vice versa, you bowing first, then them bowing. both people taking and buffing a whole bar, a blue bar of buffs. If you wanted to, if you didn't want to, the other person would allow you. You would both drink a blue potion, bow, and then fight. You know, that was something when I first started playing that I thought was really cool, that, you know, to see how much, you know, honor and stuff that the people who played the game had, to where now you just got a bunch of annoying little shits who see, you know, a streamer that they like or that they watch, and they just want to, you know, oh, let me go kill him, or, you know, let's go gank him 3 versus 1 and this shit and that. And what you guys don't understand, man, is when it comes to dueling, man, you know, I've got a video on this. If you're not the same level, or, you know, if it takes you and a buddy to kill somebody, that's not really beating somebody, man. To beat somebody and have bragging rights over them, you have literally got to be the same level, you know, on the same playing field per se, and then just absolutely outright beat them just flatly because you're better, you know. And latency will have a lot to do with that, but if you have good connection, it don't. So the only excuse then is you're just not skilled enough. You need to get better. You know, if you watch the invasions I do have on this, I suck at invasions, guys. I'm not even gonna not even lie about it. You know, when it comes to invasions, G and Steel would absolutely destroy me as far as being able to win certain invasions. And I've seen them win invasions that I didn't think were winnable. But, you know, I've fought G several times in the arena. I've come close to killing him a bunch of times, but, you know, a lot of times in the arena, I'm not going to drop down to a Royal Remains and all that shit to try to win, or swap to an Icon Shield, or poker with a Bloodhound Step, and this shit and that. I'm just not going to do it. To me, I'm trying to beat people by what would be considered kind of tournament rules. And, you know, for a while, Kivas were banned from tournament play, so, and then now they're not. So, I guess you could say now that kind of the tournament rules have changed, that I'm playing by them. But guys, as always, man, tell me, guys, like, subscribe, and share if you like the video. But always, guys, Elden Armor, peace out, laters.